The snap is good, the hold is good, the kick is on the way, and the kick is good! And we are Bell's wide open, catches it at the 5, and easily into the touchdown! In the pocket, this one is deflected, and is it picked off? Yes, it is by Amos! 25-20, 15-10-5, touchdown!
Welcome to the 2018 Villanova football season preview presented by Independence Blue Cross. We're joined by head coach Mark Ferranti. Coach, come off a 5-6 season last year. A lot of injuries on both sides of the football. Let's start with how are these guys recovering from the injuries from last season?
Yeah, it seems like everyone who was injured during the fall or preseason, because we had a few there as well, went through rehab really well. A lot of guys did participate in spring practice and spring drills. Some of the guys were held out from team activities and live activities and so on. But everyone's pretty much ready to go based off of what Tyler Wade, our athletic trainer, has told us, and everyone seems to have rehabbed really well.
As you head into the 2018 season, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Struggles last year due to a lot of injuries to key players. What's your hopes for this year?
Well, we hope we can just become more consistent. We ended up playing 3 different quarterbacks. Once Zach got hurt, we had a pretty good season going when Zach was in there, and Zach was having a heck of a year up to that point in time. I believe he had 7 touchdown passes, no interceptions, was completing over 70% of his passes. So he was doing really well until he got hurt in the 5th game of the season against Towson in the first drive of the game. But if you can keep Zach in there, and then with Bell and Good Zach and Forbes and all the names that we're familiar of hearing, some of the guys that went down with injury all coming back, we're hoping that we can be more consistent. And if you're more consistent on offense, then hopefully you can produce more points.
Defensively, you guys had a really good year last year, but we talked about you lost 3 real quality players on defense. I guess the majority losses in the secondary, but Rob Roll coming back. Talk a little bit about your defense.
Yeah, the defense played real consistent all year for the most part. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough of the consistency and firepower in offense to, win those close games. We were losing games 19-15, against Elon and those types of scores, the overtime game against Albany. So with Rob coming back, that's huge. Preseason, you're looking at your secondary, and 4 of the 5 guys that you play with in the back end were seniors, and you're going to lose them through graduation. Well, in turn, Rob's back. Julian Williams was the lone returning starter, and because of the injuries to some of the guys, Jaquan Amos got a lot of playing time, so it's almost like having a 3rd starter back in the secondary. Ed's the only linebacker we lost, so you got Steve, and you got Keeling Hunter, and you got Drew Wiley coming back in the linebacker level, and we only lost Ricky Young up front as a nose guard. He rotated play with Brian White, so you have Brian White coming back, solid nose guard. All of our defensive ends are back with Jafonte Johnson, Aaron Siegel, Terrell Reed, all those guys. And then with the injuries that we had on both sides of the ball, a lot of the young guys got a lot of game experience. So we're further along there. Our redshirt freshmen or our rising sophomore class, they're further along than they would have been had they redshirted and not played at all in the fall.
We're just getting into camp now. It's a little bit early to tell. An injury may play a part in this, but talk about your freshman recruits. Are there any that may be able to make an impact this year and get on the field?
You never know, right? You always have some expectations for some guys, and sometimes a guy will surprise you. Maybe someone you didn't expect that would contribute early on, and all of a sudden he was forced into action, or he deserved the action. Sometimes a freshman will come in and start as a true freshman because he's just that far along. From what I'm hearing through our strength staff and from what some of the players are saying, Des Boykin, a wide receiver from Whitehall High School, he's done some good things in the weight room and on the field and during the summer 3 or 4 weeks that they've been here. So he's done some really good positive things there. But really, it's hard to pinpoint any true freshman who's going to help. Last year, we needed to use too many freshmen, to be honest with you. Some of those guys weren't quite ready to play, but were thrust into the action. That will help moving forward. It'll give them the opportunity to, like I said, already be further along than had they redshirted, not played, and have to learn the system again. But, it's hard to say. Maybe a couple of the guys up front. We got Jamie Petrocic from Seton Hall over there in New Jersey, and, we got Nick Torres and Matt Mazza, a couple big guys, a couple big tackle-type guys. But, you always could use added depth in the offensive line, as you know. But it's hard to say who's going to really, truly step up and contribute as an incoming freshman. If we can get some help in the secondary, that would be a bonus.
Speaking of impact players, I caught up with senior captains Rob Roll and Zach Bednarczyk at CAA Media Day. Hi, this is Steve Pannone from CA Media Day here in Baltimore. We're joined by senior captain Rob Roll. Rob, talk about one player this offseason that's really surprised you or has really stepped up for the program.
I think, now we're going to be sophomore corner. Jaquan Amos is someone that I've kind of partnered up with and, taking on the summer together. But that's someone that I think had a tremendous true freshman year, went out there and really balled out. And I'm watching him, we're doing drills together. I'm watching him do techniques and things like that. And I'm picking up from notes from him just as I'm sure he's doing for me. But, seeing how he finished last year, no postseason accolades, no preseason accolades this year. But that's definitely someone that he's killing workouts in the summer. Every time we do conditioning, that's the one that I'm fighting with. That's the one that I'm battling with, to come in first. So that's definitely someone that I expect to step up.
I'm joined by senior quarterback Zach Bignarczyk. Zach, talk a little bit about one player maybe on this team that stepped up during the offseason.
Well, we had a lot of guys step up last year with all the injuries that we had, but one guy that really stood out in my mind, especially during spring ball, was MJ Dumas. The O-line is such an important part of football, especially for me. Those are my guys up front. They keep me safe. So for MJ to step up, and he was our most improved player in spring ball. So he had a great spring. He's having a great summer, and I think our O-line is going to be great this year.
The 2018 Villanova football season preview presented by Independence Blue Cross. We're joined by defensive coordinator Joe Trainer. Joe, your unit last year had an outstanding year, points per game, yardage, but you do suffer some losses in the secondary. Talk about kind of your unit, how it evolved from last year, and what you see from this year.
Yeah, obviously we had some setbacks last year and some adversity as a team, and certainly defensively losing Quaddy Roll early in the Albany game kind of certainly didn't help him being an All-American type of player for us. And I thought we did a pretty decent job of kind of keeping our composure throughout the year and playing hard. There's obviously some things we have to improve upon. Total defense, yards per game are things that are points of emphasis for us moving forward. Last year we were kind of a bend but don't break outfit. Which isn't necessarily bad. We just got to do a better job on third down, getting off the field and giving our offense shorter fields to work with.
And you talked about some injuries you had in the back, but you were forced to play some young guys up front. Obviously, maybe not ready to play at the level you want them as freshmen, but obviously get very valuable experience. I'm speaking of Malik Fisher a little bit. Talk about your defensive line. You're the guys where it all starts up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think D-line, we were thin to begin with, and then we had a couple setbacks with injury, which made us super, super thin. So both, I think Siegel did a great job as a true sophomore who only played about 20 snaps as a true freshman. And Malik Fisher was outstanding. We nominated him for Rookie of the Year, him and Jaquan both. I thought they had outstanding years. But those guys got their noses bloodied up front initially and, kind of got bullied around. And certainly as the season progressed, they continued to get better. And the nice thing, honestly, since I've been here, this is going into my my fifth season back, we have as much depth across the board as we've had here. We've had, there's been years past where we've had 2 or 3 really good linebackers and 1 or 2 really good D linemen and 2 really good DBs. I mean, I think part of the benefit of last year playing so many guys, they proved that they can play in this league and be really good players. And I don't know if we have a ton of stars right now in the program, but our top 18 players, I think, can be as good as anybody in the league.
And you mentioned the linebacker core. Recently just coming to mind, I think of Don Cherry, Ed Shockley last year. Probably Jeff Steve's your leader this year. Can he kind of fill that role, an all-league type player, with running sideline to sideline, making plays?
Yeah, I think Jeff's one of the most underrated players in FCS. I mean, he's not a dig me guy. He's not flashy. He's one of those leader by example guys. Not a big, personality out there. All he does is make plays and plays hard. I think he's as good a linebacker as there is, not just in the conference, but in all of FCS.
We had a chance to talk to Coach Ferranti. As coaches, you guys worry about everything.
Sure.
Obviously. But let's say you play your kickoff is Saturday at noon. At 3:30, you're in the locker room. What are you looking for from your defense? Points allowed, yardage, third down efficiency?
I think sometimes the stats you can lose yourself in stats, so to speak. I think to me, what is your turn? Are you creating turnovers? Which can erase some yardage plays for the offense. So trying to be plus, in the plus department there, and our goal every week is to get 3 turnovers a game. That's number one. Scoring defense, keeping teams out of the end zone, that's probably number two. And then I think the next big stat is winning third down. We talk about 2 out of every 3, trying to win 67% of third down. Again, getting shorter fields. If the ball starts on the 20 and we can get a 3 and out and they're kicking from the 10, there's a chance we have, really good field position close to midfield and enhancing our chances of scoring offensively.
Well, Joe, appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck to your defense this year.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. Always a pleasure.
We'll be back with more of the 2018 Villanova football season preview show presented by Independence Blue Cross. We're joined by Special Teams Coordinator Ola Adams on the 2018 Villanova football season preview presented by Independence Blue Cross. Coach, we'll go back to last year. As the Special Teams Coordinator, you lose some quality guys. John Hinchin, a first-team all-league punter, and then you lose Steve Wallace, your kickoff guy. Talk a little bit. Let's start with the kicking units. What do you expect from those groups? Who do you think can step in and play that role for you this year?
I got you. Obviously, it was tough losing John Hinchin. He was an all-conference punter for us and did really well in certain situations and really embodied everything that we wanted, our special teams guys to exhibit. But we have a true freshman coming in, Nate Fondacaro, who was highly rated coming out of high school. Obviously, he has to step in and actually do it at Villanova, but we're pretty confident in his abilities and what he'll be able to bring to the table.
Which has been a kind of a tough spot in previous years. Drew Kresge was able to step in and really help your extra point and field goal game. How has he progressed in the offseason? Did he have a good spring, and you feel he's confident that he can handle those chores again this year for you?
Yep. Drew Kresge, really stepped in at a time where we were trying to find a guy who we could believe in and count on. And he did a really good job for him. We actually rewarded him with a scholarship this off season to show him our confidence that our staff had in him. This spring, he really continued on what he did this season. But hey, every season's a new season, so you got to kind of wipe the slate clean and do it all over again. So he knows Nate Fondacaro is a guy who can also challenge his position. Okay. So we always want to keep competition going to keep everybody on edge and to get the most out of our whole team.
I guess we'll turn to return games now, obviously punt return and kick return. Talk about some guys that will be battling for this as camp starts here, that will be battling for those roles in the punt game and in the kickoff game. It's
going to be interesting this preseason. In a general sense, we're going to need to find who those guys are pretty early. We have guys with experience returning. Josh McGrigg started off last season for us as our kick returner and did a great job, took a couple over the 50-yard line. But with some injuries, we had to replace him with Nola Awapetu, who also did a great job. He took 3 kicks over the 50-yard line. And then when we had difficulties or trouble, we would throw in Aaron Forbes. Every time Aaron Forbes touched the football, he got it over the 30-yard line, which is remarkable. So we have 3 guys who we know can do it, but we also have guys returning. Julian Liacci was a guy we brought in last year. He went out with an injury last preseason, so we want to see what he could do. We got Des Boykin coming in, true freshman, receiver who's a pretty solid player. Jalen Jackson, a running back from Richmond we brought in. Also Christian Benford, a DB we brought in, is going to get a shot. So we want to see which one of those young guys can really help us so we could take pressure off of our veteran guys and allow them to focus on their starting roles on our defense or offense.
How about in punt return? That's probably a more challenging. You got 11 guys running down right at you, that ball hanging out. Do I fair catch it? Do I run up and get it? Who do you see in that punt return role?
Punt return, honestly, since I've been here, it's been a tough spot for us. When we can catch and secure the ball, we've had a lot of success. But securing the ball has been an issue. We have to find a guy with a lot of guts that will, wherever the ball goes, he'll make sure he catches it. Because as soon as the ball hits the ground, you lose a lot of hidden yardage. So Josh McGrigg is going to start as of today. But again, we want to find guys to challenge him. Des Boykin, Christian Benford, these same guys. to try to see who could do the best. But right now, I would say that spot's pretty wide open.
Well, Coach Adams, we appreciate your time today, and best of luck in
Thank you for having
2018.
me. I appreciate it.
We're joined by offensive coordinator Sam Vinu as the Wildcats prepare for the 2018 season. Coach, last season, a little bit trying on offense. You played 3 quarterbacks, 2 of them very inexperienced. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you found that went well and some of the things that really didn't go well for you.
I think that, there's a lot that didn't go well for us. We started off pretty good. We played a good second half against Temple, so that was really a positive for us. And then we felt pretty good going into the early season. Executed pretty well and got off to a pretty good start. And then I think once the injuries started piling up, we started losing the momentum that we had early. Zach played extremely well. He didn't throw any interceptions all year. And then once he got hurt, I think that was the dagger right there. Played 2 freshman quarterbacks, one redshirt freshman in Jack Shetlick, and Kyle McCloskey was a true freshman. And they played probably as you would expect freshmen to play. Did some good things, but made a lot of mistakes. And sometimes we weren't able to overcome the mistakes that they made and put ourselves in harm's way. And had a tough stretch where we lost 3 or 4 games in a row. We weren't able to really get the ball rolling.
You talk about having Zach back, and it seems following the CAA over the years, the value of an experienced quarterback in this league just makes a total difference for offensive units. Talk what it means to have Zach back healthy for this unit this year.
I think anyone that follows football, understands football, is, as in any level, you're only as good as your quarterback. I've said this, a number of times, but Zach's probably the best passing quarterback that we've had since Brett Gordon back in the early 2000s. So, what he brings to the table, outside of leadership, is experience. He's seen a lot of different things. He's pretty much seen whatever a defense can present to him and is able to adapt and overcome.
You do have a large number of skilled players returning, mostly in the backfield. Let's talk a little bit. Let's start in the backfield with your returning group and what you expect from them.
Yeah, we have Aaron Forbes is one of our captains. Big, strong, physical running back. Aaron's going about 225 pounds right now. Probably not a home run hitter, but he's a guy that's can give you 6 or 7 yards a clip. Can hit the big play, which is important. Play extremely well in our last game against Delaware. Really was a difference in the game. We bring back Matt Goodzak, who was injured in our Albany game last year, so game 4, I guess he got injured. He's off to a really good start, got hurt, but he is really a breakaway guy, an explosive running back, and adds a lot of toughness to our team. Justin Covington showed signs of really being a really solid CAA running back.
Okay, let's go to the wideout spot. You had some injuries there as well last year, and so we'll talk wideout and slot.
Changa Hodge was a dominant player early in the season for us. I mean, he had over 100 yards receiving against Temple, and in the third quarter, he got injured. He had a fractured foot, and he was out for the season. So that really is our primary down the field threat. So once he went missing, it was difficult for us, but we feel that we were able to develop some pretty good young players at the receiver position. Zach Kirkston stepped in and played well at times, even though he was fighting injury. Brandon Chadbourne, played physically, which is what we're asking him to do, and Javon Jones, just add some size and length, and just needs to figure out how to play receiver, which was his first time playing receiver, moving over from defensive back. Slots. Probably our most consistent player last year and best player was Taurus Phillips. He's no longer with us, but we're expecting big things from Jarrett McClinton. Jarrett has been a part-time starter really for 3 years now, so we shouldn't miss a beat there. We have a couple younger guys coming into that position as well, and Adiemi De Silva, who was a backup quarterback for us, is playing slot receiver now as well, and adds some size and speed to the position out there.
And we talked a lot about the injuries. You lose your all-league tight end Ryan Bell early in the year. we'll go to let's talk about the tight end and the line, because you're going to ask him to block as well as catch passes. So
right.
Talk about O-line and tight end.
Okay, well, talk about the tight ends first. I think we're as deep as we've ever been at tight end, probably because of our situation last year. But we returned Ryan Bell, who's very, a multiple dynamic type of player. He can play in line and flexed out. Simon Bengalis played very well for us toward the end of the season, and we were forced to use Todd Summers, as a sophomore who was solid for us, and even Jack Boomer played a little bit before he got hurt. So we're as deep as we've ever been at tight end, and we'll play more 2 tight end sets, at least initially, than we have in the past. But we feel pretty good at that position. Offensive line, we feel very good about our first 5. Ethan Greenidge was an all-conference, I guess, second-team player, and is preseason all-conference player at left tackle, which is important. Louis Cesar was injured a little bit last year, comes back to play left guard. We moved Paul Gratton from left guard to center, so that should really solidify that position for us. MJ Dumas was our most improved player in the spring, so he will start at right guard. He played a little bit last year, probably before he was ready to play, but he really played well in the spring, so really like him a lot. And Brandon Hittner at the other tackle is holding his weight at about 305 pounds, so he's really a solid guy there as well.
Sam, we appreciate you taking the time today. Best of luck in the 2018 season.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate it.
That concludes the 2018 Villanova football season preview presented by Independence Blue Cross. Make sure to catch the Wildcats in action this Saturday at Lincoln Financial Field as they take on the Temple Owls, and kickoff is set for 12 noon.